Welcome to Great Talk and Entertainment. I'm your host, KJ, and this is the podcast where I review movies and TV shows from all your favorite superheroes, including Marvel Comics, DC Comics, and much more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talk and Entertainment official channel. Now let's go, baby. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Again, this is Great Talk and Entertainment official channel, and this is going to be my spoiler review for the new DC comic movie, Joker Folie a Deux. And again, I don't speak French, so I apologize if I messed that up. This is a spoiler review, so if you have not seen this movie, pause this, and you're still not sure you want to see this, I have a non-spoiler review uploaded now on my official channel, Great Talk and Entertainment official channel, so go check that out. But go see the movie, check it out, and then if you guys could, if you hit that thumbs up on this channel, I would appreciate it. It would help this channel grow, get me more views, more subscribers, so I truly appreciate that. So again, this is a spoiler review. Y'all been warned. Let's get into it. This film starts off with an old school animation, like a Looney Tune type theme, and it's called Me and My Shadow. The song we hear is called Mentally We Roll Along. This is in 1935 by Eddie Cantor, Charlie Tobias, and Murray McCheer. The song fits the whole film. We see this cartoon kind of recap of what happened as he wrestles his shadow, and this is kind of like Lee Quinn, who's played by Lady Gaga, is like his shadow, and he's trying to wrestle it to not be him or become that person. And within this cartoon, we see the cops beat him so bad, like it's close. And of course, this turns into reality of this film, how this film really begins. Now, again, it's all back to reality, and we see this dark, gloomy, like prison or maybe a jail cell or a place where they just lock up people, but it's Gotham, so I would assume it's a prison within Gotham City. And, of course, Joker's just in his cell with a pot that he has to use for bathroom reasons, and he's just holding it until the guards open up the door. And, of course, these guards in this film bully him, they laugh at him, they manipulate him, they talk down upon him, and they just use him for their entertainment. Especially when it comes to the guard named Jackie Sullivan. And the guards get him ready for Arthur to go see his attorney. They're shaving his face, they're getting him dressed. You notice when he was shaving his face, he put the white shaving cream on Arthur's, face and jaw, and he's shaving them. It you can see Arthur kind of gets a remembrance of him putting on the white clown makeup. And, the guards are teasing him, like, tell us a joke. And you know what? It just seems like something happened to him, like maybe every time he does say a joke, and this is like prison, the guards may have whoop on him because Arthur says jokes that, it's dark humor, basically, in a sense, and he takes it so far. So I can see Arthur, maybe coming off a smart ass with the jokes and the guards beat on him because he wasn't in a good mood. Obviously, he's in prison, so you're never in a good mood, right? But the idea that, like, Arthur is being quiet, and he's not like this the whole time through this film, but for that particular scene, it was like, oh, something happened. So within this film, there's a lot of implying. Things happen to Joker in this prison that is implied, but never show it in an actual scene. And so, like, for example, as they're shaving his face, Arthur kind of moves, and one of the guards nicked him in the side of his cheek, and which is kind of foreshadowing. And this is spoiler review, so I'm gonna say it. So when he gets his like either left or right lip nicked, blood comes down, which that's what it looks like after Joker got shanked by a young person that's an inmate in the same prison at the end of this film. So they're already foreshadowing this already. Like, bam, there you go. And then they finally get him dressed, they get him all, and they're walking him outside to a. So it's kind of like he's in a high place where, because he's a killer, right? He's a murderer. So this was more of extreme, and then they take him down to lower levels. So this is implying, like, you know, obviously, if you can change in your attitude, you go down to a lower level of a prison. But they have to take him there just to meet with his attorney. And what I like, this is one of my favorite things, one of my favorite scenes, I should say. So they're walking outside, and all the guards have umbrellas, and they're making Arthur just walk in the rain, and it's heavy. It's heavy outside, and he's just getting soaking wet. And so when Joker looks up, all of a sudden he kind of, the delusional part, whatever we viewing authors view through his eyes, the umbrella is all colorful, like different colors. And this is versus the idea of, like, it was all these umbrellas are actually just black, like they were not colorful. But in Joker's mind, when he looked up to the sky, looking at the rain, he smiles, and all the umbrellas are colorful. And I know, I don't know the name of the film, but it's an old French film that had a lot of colorful umbrellas, and it had a dark story to it. I forget the name of it, but throughout this film, this is a callback to a lot of old films that you can't, like I said, like 1935 old films, and probably even old. As they get into the next building of this section, then we get to see the first time we see Lee Quinn, who is played by, again, Harley Quinn, and she's in a music group, and they're singing this Christian hymn song, "Will the Circle Be Unbroken?" And they make eye contact, and we learn that she's not really put in there. She's just voluntary. Put herself in there. Like, her family's rich, her dad's a successful doctor, and so it's kind of odd they just let her in there, but she's pretending she's crazy. And it shows that she's more of a fan instead of being madly in love with the Joker, because, like, again, this is not the Harley Quinn that we're familiar with as far as we've seen in live action. And Margot Robbie should be playing Harley Quinn more than Lady Gaga, to be honest. But for the sake of this film, I kind of I understand what they were trying to do, what Todd Phillips was trying to do. Well, not try, but he did do in this film. And it does make sense. So I'm not saying that Lady Gaga was bad at playing this, but I would say, personally, Margot Robbie is my favorite actress to portray Harley Quinn. I think she got the character down more. And in a sense, I was kind of hoping Lady Gaga would kind of go the same route as she did, but I had a feeling it wouldn't. And again, when I said she's more of being a fan of him, it just shows that, like, she just manipulates, and we don't know her real game for this thing is, but she's doing crazy stuff for Joker. She stands up for him. She tells Joker's lawyer that you're making him look like a fool, blah, blah, blah. Just she's delusional too, and we don't know why, and we don't know who's putting on a show and who's not throughout this film between Harley and Joker through this film. And of course, with Joker's lawyer, Maria Stewart, she believes that Joker should be in a better facility with better professional doctors for the reason she believes that he has split personality order. Um, Obviously, in the 1980s, like 1981, I think, they were calling it DIY, but I know we don't call it that no more. So, but this, I like how they show, like, in that time, this is how the court case would look at mental health in a way, because in this time, nobody believed in like a split personality type. But this is the kind of thing that Joker's lawyer would like to use to win the court case, and that's pretty like knowledgeable. That's pretty basic to one type of strategy an attorney would do. But of course, nobody's buying this. Nobody's believing this. For example, somebody like, I know one of the scenes, there's a doctor of Arkham Asylum, and he said he did this test and he found no signs of like craziness, basically. And she's like, well, how long did it take? She's like, oh, about 9 minutes, and 9 minutes or 90 minutes or whatever. But she is explaining to the jury that this is not something you can just figure out in a short period of time. Like, this takes weeks and weeks and months to figure out. And how is that fair to just base off of, I forget, I haven't seen the movie again, but I need to. 9 minutes or 90 minutes, either or, it's not long enough, basically. Now, after that scene, after Arthur and the lawyer are explaining, here's the game plan, here's what we're going to do, he goes to this interview, and this lady who interviews the Joker, it's like a professional doctor, and they're recording it. That's why I'm saying they're interviewing it, because they're going to use this in the court case to do a study on it. And this is how they get like real statistics, proofs. They can back this up. This is how you try to win a court case. And of course, she's taking on Harvey Dent. So Harvey Dent in DC Comics, before he became Two-Face, he was a really good lawyer. Even in The Dark Knight, he was a really good lawyer. Obviously, he brought down a lot of, crime mobs in that universe. But any version of Harvey Dent is a good lawyer, so that's the point. So bringing her A game is the most important thing. And so the lady asked him, like, did you see bright lights? And, it reminded me of the Dark Knight movie where Joker put a bomb in this big guy's belly, and he's in the jail cell, and he goes, I see lights, and he promised me such and such. I'm just paraphrasing it, and then it explodes up, obviously. But that's what it reminded me of. And I know within this film, Todd Phillips tried to connect this film to Christopher Nolan's version of the Dark Knight trilogy, which, well, I'll get into that later. But this is just one sign. I'll explain the other one. So after he says, no, I don't. All I remember is the music. And so here's the interesting thing about that. So basically, this film's trying to tell you that he disassociates a lot, and what he goes to is the music. And that's why it's a musical. This film is a straight up musical, basically. And, he can't tell from what's real and what's not from this situation. And this is just another example of, like, nobody in the system is going to take this thing as serious, because all they know is, like, this guy murdered, like, 5 people or 6 people. Because at this film, they didn't know that Joker killed his adopted mother, which I thought they did, but I guess they did. But now they knew after he admitted that later on in this film. And then they take him back, and then this is where a scene here where I believe Arthur, the way he views one of the main guards, who seems very friendly with him. He's an older gentleman. And he tells him, "Hey, I got you into that music group class because you've been doing a good job. You've been behaving." He said, "The only thing is you got to stay in handcuffs, but I'll take you there and you get to sing with the group." And so, again, this is a way that maybe this guard is manipulating him, and he's just teasing him, making fun of him, because maybe the reality is, since Joker throughout this film starts breaking out and starts singing songs, and a lot of times he sings the same songs throughout this film, which sometimes it just dragged out a lot through this scene. Like, sometimes I wish they shortened some of the musical scenes, and that was fine. And so he seems nice, but then, like, Joker kind of pats him, and then the guard like smacks him back in the head, like almost knocks him out. And that's probably the reality of, like, he might have said it a lot different than what Joker thinks how that guard told him the news. But then that's for the first time he starts talking to Harley Quinn, aka Lee Quinn, as they call her. And they start talking, and you can see that she starts manipulating him throughout this film. And again, it tells you that we don't know what's real or not. As Arthur and the inmates are watching one of the TVs, and like, oh, it's a room where everybody can take a break, play games, read books, sit down, watch the news. We see Harvey Dent, and he's on live TV just saying, "Hey, Arthur Fleck needs to be put to the death penalty, put to death." And in that time, that was an okay thing to do in like New Jersey until, like, I want to say 2002 or 2007, I forget. But he wants it, and then the way Arthur responds is he starts singing a cappella for the song. It's called "For the One in My Life," which was in 1965, a Motown song by Ron Miller, but it's best known for Stevie Wonder, who did an up-tempo cover version of this song. And he's just singing along, and again, this is all in his head because the other inmates are singing along. We see one guy like doing an air piano, and then it starts breaking out in musical, but then it's all in his head. And then we see Arthur just standing outside in the rain in the cell, right, and where it's caged up, and it's raining. He's just laughing like ha 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 ha, right? And again, like, this is all in his head, but that's when reality comes in. And then I thought, what, there's this nice inmate that's really friendly with Arthur, but the guards tease him too. They even the guards told him to go ask Arthur for a kiss, and of course they really do kiss. But he seems very nice and friendly to him. But unfortunately, within this film, when it gets more serious at the end, the guards, beat him, choke him to death or whatever. But obviously they cover that up, right? And as we're watching this film, and we start to see a delusional scene now where it's all in Joker's head, but it starts when Harley Quinn and Joker are watching movies with the other inmates, and this is where she's kind of manipulating him. And she's like, "Hey, let's get out, let's sneak out." And he's like, "We can't do that, like, I'll be in big trouble." And she's like, "Relax, it's all gonna work out and play out the way it's supposed to be played." She gets up, and one thing I noticed throughout this film, every time those two smoke a cigarette, they become crazy. And I have a theory about that I'm going to share later at the end of this episode. But I noticed that. So she's smoking a cigarette. She throws the cigarette still lit, throws it in the piano, and then it catches on fire. Everybody running out, and those two are just standing there looking in each other's eyes. I believe they kissed. They kiss a lot in this film when they do have a chance or an opportunity. And then they break out in a song and they start dancing, and then that's where they're kind of looking like they're on a show or a stage, and they're all dressed up nice and they're dancing and singing, but it's really they're just outside in their in some sweatpants and some slip-on shoes, whatever, right? And the media's out there looking at them, they're all crazy. But then they get caught for getting too far by the gate, and Joker gets thrown into the hole. This is like they call it the hole. This is like a punishment cell where you might be in there for a week, 2 weeks, or even a month, depending what film or show you watch, like Prison Break or whatever. But it's the ultimate punishment. But it seems this is another thing that kind of like messes us up too. Is where did this come from? You know, he's in this thing and he starts dreaming, envisioning dancing with Harley Quinn, and then he wakes up and he's in the cell. She's in there, and then they make love, and then she's claiming that she's pregnant. Now, I think that was all in his head. I don't think he really did make love. I think he was just in there all by himself, lonely, had nobody to talk to, and he was just off in his imaginary. And that's how it was, because check this out. And another thing that happened in this film is Arthur's lawyer takes him to get an interview with a man named Patty Meyer, and he was asking him some questions that made him feel really uncomfortable, and the trauma kicked in, so he got triggered, and that's where he starts singing this song called "Bewitched" by Frank Sinatra. And then what's this is kind of funny too. This is kind of my favorite scene. As he's singing this, Lee like takes his garbage can because she's outside in the streets, and this is that old classic thing where there's a store with a glass display, and they're selling like televisions, but they have them activated with like the news or whatever. And she throws the garbage can at the glass window and takes the TV, and it's got unplugged so she can't see him, but she took this particular TV because she knew that he was singing towards her. And again, this is why the guy who was interviewing him, he is asking like the reality questions, like you're a murderer, this type of thing. Like you should be put to the death penalty because what you did was wrong and it ain't right. It was that type of conversation. And again, the trauma kicked, and that's why he goes to these musicals. And in this film, it makes it clear that the first film seems like to be all in Joke Arthur's head, and the way we watch the first film is just the way he views things, or that's how he sees it. Because without this film, when they get to court, we see this big crowd that's just Joker supporters. And in Joker's mind, it's like this is his fans and he's just putting on a show. Because in this film, Arthur does not want to be the Joker. The way they made this film is we, the audience, and everybody in this film is trying to force him to be the Joker. And it's getting to him. That's why he laughs like that. That's why he has these musical breakout songs in his head, or he's actually doing it, but it looks a completely lot different. Because we see that, and then even during court, one of the witnesses that they bring up to ask questions, right, in court, to testify, basically. And one of them was the first, like, therapist or counsel in the first Joker film, and she brings up about his diary, and it's very dark, but we see Joker interrupt and say, "No, no, no, that was just my jokes," but the judge told him, "Shut up," you know, because you can't do that in court. You can't like interrupt somebody speaking, right? And without that, he's looking back. He's looking for Harley Quinn, and he realized, I'm just gonna fire my lawyer. And this is another thing. One of my favorite things in this film is that in real life, you couldn't go to court and dress up like a clown, but in DC world, in Gotham City, this is okay. And the fact this judge allowed it and stuff. And this is where it kind of feels like the 2002 movie Chicago. Every time they're in court, it goes to a musical singing. Sometimes they just re-sing the same song. And again, this I'm telling you, I cannot say this more than once, but some of these songs just dragged on in this film. Like, again, I wish they focused more on the serious and less in the musical. But I will say that in these court scenes, right, even though he was found guilty, but there was times throughout this film, especially just in the court scenes, you start feeling sorry for him, or you're like, wow, this dude does need to be locked up or put to the death penalty. This really messes with you, and you're kind of torn in between those type of feelings. But really like that too as well. And again, they found him guilty, and a lot of everybody who went on trial or testimony, like I'll say the first one, Gary, he talked about how he witnessed the murder in authors in his mom's apartment, and it was him, but it was the guy that gave him the weapon to carry around so people don't beat him up when he used to be a professional clown and visit schools or do other oddball jobs for businesses, right? And the little guy, he was just kind of like, yeah, he was telling him, this is what made me feel bad for him, is he told Arthur, like, he was the only guy who never messed with him, the only guy he considered to be a friend because he was very nice to him. But he kept saying to Arthur, like, man, what you did really mentally messed me up. Like, I don't even feel comfortable going to work. And he was crying, he was sad. But he actually, even with all that, even in court, he shows that he still cares for Arthur and he feels sorry for him because he watched everybody pick on Arthur in the first Joker film, and they made that very clear. But before that, in the scene where they bring up, Harvey Dent bring up a witness, which is a character from the first Joker film, Sophia Dumont, and that one really broke me too, broke my heart a little bit, where I felt a little sad because she explains, like, she was kind of like friends or really friendly with Arthur's adopted mom who abused him as a child, like tie him to a chain and gave him head trauma and stuff, and let an abusive boyfriend beat him really bad. And just to tell her that she made up a story for Arthur, that he was made to be on Earth to put a smile on people's face, and then talk smack about his adopted son, and that she's annoyed by his laughter. And remember, I thought for years since that movie came out, I thought Joker murdered that woman because she was the love interest, but it was all in his head. But she just walked him back to the apartments. So she wasn't even scared. I feel like in Joker's mind, she was frightened and scared for her daughter. This because in that first film, this was where he had in his mind an epiphany, and this is where it kind of went. But obviously, it was not like that. And so, with that said, even after that, again, we go back to the last witness to testify, which is Gary. And that one, after that, he's like, no further questions. And it just said, look, I admit it. He admitted it. He wished he could take it all back and stuff. And again, that's where they found guilty, but he accepted it. But then we get an explosion. So the fans, the cult leader, followers, or whatever, blew up the building to let Joker out. And for a moment, I thought, okay, now he's going to become the Prince of Crime. Nope. He runs all the way to the iconic stairs where he danced in the first film. But before he got that, there's people who try to get him to escape, but he just got out of the car and ran just to see Harley Quinn. But she said, I don't want to be with you because you said in court that you don't want to be Joker anymore and that you ruined the fantasy. Because if you remember when Harley Quinn visited him in prison, there was that glass, well, not glass, but plastic wall screen that, you when you visit an inmate, you're on one side and you're on the other side, and there's a plexiglass, that's the word. And again, when you see her take the lipstick, Arthur does the Joker smile. But it's funny how this author doesn't want to be the Joker. So that's why she said that. And I thought, okay, now he's going to become Joker, because in comic books and from the Suicide Squad movie, Joker was a little abusive. And not a little, but a lot. But he didn't do. I thought, oh, he's gonna choke her out. Nope, she sang another song that was repeated through this whole film, and she just walked off. But I kind of get it too. Maybe it was just all. Maybe Harley Quinn was all in his head, and he was just talking to himself outside because the cops got him real quick and arrested him, and that's where it gets dark. But they implied some inappropriate things that made happen to him by the guards, which I'm like, well, I don't know how to explain it or question it, but for that, it didn't make sense, but they're just implying it. But so I'm not going to say it just for the fact of YouTube, but inappropriate things may or may not happen, but they implied it. But at the end of this film, it seems like that was all in his head too, or maybe it wasn't. Who knows? But the guard said, Arthur, you got a visitor. And he's getting ready to go, and then this young man, who's an inmate who we've seen throughout this film, shanks him. And that's how it ended, and he died. So, what I think about the ending, we'll talk about the ending. Now, as reports been revealed, is that this was supposed to connect to Heath Ledger's Joker, and this is supposed to be the young version of it, which I hope not, because that would mess up the whole Dark Knight trilogy in every way, because there's no way it couldn't be like that. Example, if that was the case, right, that messes up the first Joker film and Batman Begins. So in the first Joker film, it was a guy who wore a clown mask and shot Bruce Wayne's parents right in front of him. Batman Begins, it was a guy on some type of drug that was made by Scarecrow, a fear toxin. And that's how he shot Bruce Wayne's parents right in front of him. And if you really think about it, if you go based off the first Joker and then the second one here, Batman would have been 8 years old. He's still grieving over his parents. As a matter of fact, he wouldn't be Batman. He'd just be Bruce Wayne, a little boy who's probably 7 or 8 years old at this point. So I wouldn't be surprised that they kept him as a child for this, because the one thing I was disappointed about that too, especially with this ending, is they're trying to say like that Arthur Fleck is not the actual Joker, and then Todd Phillips goes out in public and says, "Yeah, this wasn't the Joker. The guy who stabs him is the Joker," is what they're implying in this film. Because in that film, the guy cuts his left cheek, right cheek, and it's crazy. I read on like uh, director Christopher Nolan like made sure that Todd Phillips had to change the ending to this one or the first Joker film. I couldn't remember, but I thought that was a pretty interesting thing. The next topic is no Batman slash Bruce Wayne. They only had one reference of Bruce Wayne where when they're driving Joker to court, they drive past, or not past, but where you can see the Wayne Tower building, and that's the only Batman reference you got. And I thought that was kind of disappointing, because how can you make a Joker film without Batman? It's like, how can you make a Batman film without Joker in any of them? Like, at some point, these guys have to meet, because it doesn't make sense if they don't. And you don't hear nothing about Thomas Wayne. You don't get any updates on where Bruce Wayne would have been at in this film. Nothing. I think those would have been important things to add in this film. And I get it. I get that you're trying to make sure this is all about Joker, but it wasn't. It didn't feel like it. It just felt like, it didn't even feel like a DC comic film. But they try to connect that the Dark Knight movie to this in some way, and I didn't make sense of it. So I hope they don't mess that up, but they shouldn't, because that would be bad, I personally think, on that part. Another thing I just want to bring up is Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. First of all, I think she did an amazing job. I loved it. I love her singing. And I also just didn't quite like it enough, though, to say that she should be Harley Quinn. I just think Harley Quinn, throughout whatever version, should just be like Harley Quinn. I think she should always be madly in love with Joker. And I always think, like, again, with Joker, I think that should have been the main Joker. He should have just turned into the Prince of Crime. Like, instead of plotting to show the world that you're not evil or you're not wrong, just shouldn't plan an escape prison like the Joker always does. But that's what I kind of wish, and I know fans wanted that too in the sense of it. So that's what I wish, but it wasn't my favorite film. It's a good film in general. Like, the ending to me does make sense if you just go base it off the first Joker film with Joaquin Phoenix. That does make sense. But to tie it in with the whole DCU universe, it doesn't make sense. It wouldn't work. Like, it just doesn't mean anything. And I like the guy who played Harvey Dent. They did foreshadow his scars in that explosion, but nothing like I would say, oh, that's going to be a part 3, but I just don't see it. But over and all, if I had to give this a 1 out of 10, I'm giving this a 6. And the reason why I'm giving it a 6 is just for the fact was, one, a lot of this stuff wasn't executed right, especially with the musical. I felt like they played the same song too many times, where it just dragged on. And I felt like they should have focused more on the scenes where reality kicked in to kind of show us, like, here's reality of what the Joker is. Show us how really crazy he is. Not in the way of, like, where's this going? And I know they try to do that psychological thriller with it, but it didn't lead to nothing. Again, this is a iconic villain from the DC world, where most people who maybe don't read comic books, or maybe not a fan of the superhero genre films, but people understand who the Joker as a character is. But why take out all the elements that make the Joker the Joker? It doesn't make sense for that to me. Now, and that's why it's not my favorite film for this year, of course. But I did like, again, I did have some favorites. I mentioned about how the umbrella changed to different colors. I liked how Harley Quinn and Joker met. I also just like how when the Joker, if this was like the split personality theme that they were going with, I like how certain things would turn to a color. And I did like some of the transformations to a musical stage. But again, a lot of it was a hit and miss. There's some that executed correctly and I enjoyed it. There's some I didn't like. It just got kind of boring. I almost got a little tired, like falling asleep wise, but it just, man, it's a 2 hour movies, and if you're gonna pull something like that, you gotta make it feel not like a 2 hour movie. You want people to enjoy it. And there was some cringy dialogue that I didn't agree with. Like I was like, oh, why would you say that? That's not even like a thing. Like they were just trying too hard. And I just felt like if you're gonna do a musical, you should go 100% in. I would have just made sure Joker sounded like an amazing singer. And I'm not saying Joaquin Phoenix isn't. I think he did good with where he played Johnny Cash, so he's got some vocals. But I would have just leaned towards more into it if I was Todd Phillips and just made it really good, make it a really good musical then. But it just seems like the story seemed torn apart between what Todd Phillips wanted to do versus what the company, the studio, Warner Brothers Discovery wanted him to do, what they want out of it. So that's why I get like there's what he wanted and what the big company wanted. But other than that, I watch it again, but I'm gonna wait till it hits Max. But again, it's a good movie. It's an okay, like it's not the best, and I hope they don't do a part three. And maybe they will. Who knows, right? But based off of Joker one in this second film, what a great ending to tie it all up with a perfect bow as a gift, right? This makes sense. It's perfect for that particular reason. And I also just want to say I did enjoy that they use mental health as an important topic. So I like that part too. But I just wish they put more Joker themes to make it feel like a real Joker movie to me that I grew up watching as, watching Batman cartoons and reading books, of course. So that's what I was kind of hoping, but they took all that out of it. So, but that's my review, y'all. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Great Talking Entertainment official channel. Subscribe, hit that notification button so you always be updated with all my latest content. Thank you guys, and peace out.